Did we just leave?
Or where, yeah, are we? Yeah, we're it. I thought maybe we had been joined by everybody and there was that silence. Yeah, we're not.
Sherry, you can begin.
Great, I think everyone can see my screen now.
And are our attendees in the session?
I see 47 participants, so I think we're good.
Right. Welcome everybody to West Coast Partnerships in Practice as part of the Buildable Backyards Real Estate Conference. My name is Kate Allen. I'm joined today by some pretty esteemed panelists, and so we're each going to introduce ourselves. I am the principal of a affordable housing and community development consulting firm based in Oregon, based on my laptop, essentially, in Oregon. Ray.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Hi, I'm Ray Haggerty with Hacienda CDC, Community Development Corporation. And we are a Latino-led and Latino-serving organization based in Portland, Oregon. And we provide affordable housing and complementary, culturally specific supportive services to Oregon's Latino community, as well as other low-income families throughout the state. And just as a side note, for those of you that are local to Durham, I actually grew up in Carborough, just down the road. So even though I'm representing the West Coast today, I'm really thrilled to hear that my hometown area is having these great conversations.
And John.
Yeah, hi, my name is John Miller. I'm the executive director of Back Home ADU, and I've been involved in the affordable housing nonprofit scene in the Portland area since 2002. I've run a couple of organizations and really excited to be involved in this kind of unique program that we've launched. So I'm excited to tell you about that.
And I'm Jennifer Duffy. I'm the president of Hello Housing. We are a nonprofit housing organization that's been operating in the San Francisco Bay Area of California. We've been working in affordable housing for over 16 years, helping local governments make and maintain their investments in housing. And our work has always been grounded in the small stuff, which is why ADUs has been such a natural fit. So we've always worked with our government partners to craft housing strategies that promote infill housing or the repurposing of existing housing stock for more sustainable communities. So it's great to be with all of you today.
Thanks, everyone. We will wrap up the program with a good Q&A session. So as you're listening to the panelists, we'll each make a little bit of the presentation. if you would be kind enough to drop your questions in the Q&A little tab down at the bottom of your screen, that will help us sort a little easier and get to your questions right away. So we're talking about West Coast partnerships in practice, and wanted to give a little bit of context, which a lot of folks know. We are representing organizations that are working in Oregon and California. Our colleagues up in Washington State have been really active in this space. And we sort of reflected on the fact that there's a regulatory context on the West Coast and in many of the Western states that has really advanced ADUs broadly as a building type, as an opportunity for homeowners. In Portland has been more than a decade, well more than a decade, with very sort of progressive ADU policies. Seattle area, other jurisdictions, and then the entire state of California, I think, as well as individual jurisdictions, have regulatory schemes that really promote the development of ADUs. There's also really innovative programs that have come from our colleagues in each of those states. But in many cases, low and moderate income homeowners, and especially people in communities of color, primarily communities of color, have really been left out of this building, this ADU movement. So each of our organizations and each of the programs you'll hear about today, and a lot of other good ones, are really aiming specifically at serving low and modest income homeowners and creating affordable rental opportunities in a couple of cases. Just to put some context around that, in 2017, Portland State University did a really comprehensive analysis of who had built ADUs in the Portland metro area. And I'm working a little bit from memory. My colleagues can correct me if I'm way off, but I think it was something like people who were building ADUs in their backyard were around 89 to 92% likely to be college educated, advanced degrees, and white. Similarly, for those that were being used as permanent rentals, it was almost that same demographic. So our organizations are all thinking about, and the group that I've worked with most closely, Hacienda, is really thinking about who's not being served and how do we bring the best of our communities into these programs. So today you'll hear from panelists focusing on different aspects of how do we really help make that possible for the people who we prioritize with the programs. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ray, who's going to talk about Small Homes Northwest, a Hacienda project in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. So Small Homes Northwest is a pilot program to bring ADUs, or casitas, as a lot of our clients refer to them, as affordable rental homes. And we really intend, as Kate said, for every part of this pilot program to benefit communities of color, starting with the homeowners that we partner with. So we're aiming to build these ADUs, both directly in partnership with homeowners of color, as well as in partnership with culturally specific community organizations that maintain existing portfolios of homes. And the ADUs will be regulated affordable rental units for low-income tenants for an affordability period of 10 to 15 years. And in a moment, Kate's going to tell you about some of the benefits of the program for homeowners and the community. But I did want to highlight how wonderful of a housing option ADUs are for the Latinx community that we serve. ADUs really allow folks to kind of maximize their full yard space as activity space, as social space, as living space. They're a really great housing option for multi-generational living, where grandma, for example, can live in the backyard close to the grandkids while still maintaining some independence. And these are values that our clients tell us again and again that they really, really care about in a housing option. So our pilot is built on a set of financial components that are shown here. The goal is to establish a really cost-controlled and standardized design for an ADU. And the construction of the ADU is covered by two sources. The first is a subsidy, which was granted to Hacienda by Meyer Memorial Trust. They're a local charitable foundation, and they granted us funds to pilot the construction of 3 to 4 affordable ADUs. And this subsidy is actually what secures that rental affordability period for the ADU. And the second source is a modest homeowner loan, where the repayment of the loan is serviced through the monthly rental income that's generated by the ADU. So I'll give more details on the financial model later. We'll get into some more specific numbers. But really the neat thing about this combination of sources is that this subsidy amount is just a small fraction of the typical public subsidy that's required to build an affordable rental unit. Here in Oregon, a LIHTC kind of multifamily apartment can require a subsidy of about $150,000 more or less per unit. So this program is a really cost-effective way to provide affordable housing. And our goal is to do kind of 100% of our contracting work with minority-owned contractors to be really intentional about using that subsidy to promote local workforce development. Oops. All right, Kate, will you tell us a little bit about the benefits of the program?
Sure, happy to. I have had the opportunity to work with Hacienda in the lead and 3 other community-based organizations serving primarily people of color communities to really put this model together. We had really good support, as Ray might have said, from Meyer Memorial Trust. Those organizations are Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives based in Oregon's historic African American community, Rose Community Development in an area of outer southeast Portland that really has been the recipient of people who are displaced from other areas by gentrification in Portland, which has been a big thing. They serve a large immigrant and refugee community. And our partner on the economic development side, Verde, who has really made their work around workforce development and lifting up environmental assets that serve people of color communities. So Ray mentioned a number of the benefits of this for the homeowner. It's this kind of combination of both an opportunity to be a small scale entrepreneur. The homeowner receives a modest monthly income out of the revenue stream from the rent. They're building an asset in their home because they will retain, once the 10 to 15 year affordability period is expired, they own that ADU free and clear. We've heard a lot from communities when we're doing focus groups about a strong interest in what can I do to help? And this really gives folks a way to help neighbors stay in the community. And for a lot of our potential home buyers or participants, they have asked, can this rental be for a family member? My son had to move way out in the sticks to even be able to afford. And so the program will serve that need. For the community at large, we create more affordable housing, as Ray said, at a much lower cost to build. We're obviously stabilizing those homeowners with some supports around them, and using this as kind of a barricade against further displacement. We're able for the renter households to serve folks who are currently on the affordable housing wait lists of our partner organizations and others that we partner with. Ray mentioned the workforce development, specifically working with minority contractors. It's an ideal, we're a stick-built model. We can adapt to a number of different approaches, but it's an ideal for either a small contractor or a workforce development program. And we're mindful of, whenever we build on the existing infrastructure, reducing our climate impact. I think more broadly, and one of the goals of a pilot program for Small Homes Northwest is to lift up a model kind of almost in partnership with our colleagues around the state that is very flexible and very adaptable. So this Small Homes Northwest is working specifically now in the metro area, but Hacienda has leading conversations in smaller communities around the state where they can put those 3 working blocks together in a way that really responds to the needs in those communities. So our goal with the pilot project is to build 10 to 15 units in the metro area and around the state, and then work with the state housing agency to allocate a permanent source of funding for the affordability subsidy. And they're very, very supportive of this. And we'll give an update on the really good news coming out of our legislature as we wrap this up. Thanks, Ray.
Great. Yeah, sure. So as Kate said, we're really working on establishing a few ADU designs at 1 and 2 bedroom sizes that can be used kind of again and again across a lot of different sites. This consistency saves on design fees, it saves on time, and it brings a really great level of sort of certainty and cost control to the pilot. So this is an aerial plan for a 540-ish square foot detached 1 bedroom ADU. That we're working on. It includes kind of all the basic amenities, full kitchen, bathtub, in-unit washer dryer, and a really open floor plan to kind of maximize that square footage internally as much as possible. Here's an illustration of how the ADU might lay out behind a primary dwelling, as well as some side elevations that show what it can look like with different roof pitches. And for this pilot, we are kind of focusing on that detached model for the ADU. Portland does have a lot of flexibility in the types of ADUs that are allowed. For example, garage conversions, attic units, basement units, but this detached model really gives us the most flexibility at this point. And these renderings sort of show what how the design can be really adapted. Not only to match kind of the aesthetic of the primary dwelling and the neighborhood it's in, but ultimately to go with the aesthetic preferences of the homeowner as well. So really briefly, we'll dive into some numbers here. This is our kind of detailed financial model for that ADU, that 540 square foot one that we just saw. The column on the left shows kind of that breakdown of construction costs. I think kind of one of the interesting pieces of this construction budget is that 0 next to what's called SDCs. That's Portland's version of impact fees. They're called system development charges. And you can get those waived in Portland if you agree not to rent your ADU as a short-term rental for 10 years. And that's a big help since these impact fees can often be really cost prohibitive in the construction of ADUs. On that bottom left column there, you can see the funding sources. And what's shown here is a homeowner loan of $65,000 and a subsidy of $81,000. Plus energy incentives of $5,000 that come from some of the green design features that are incorporated into the ADU design. And these loan and subsidy amounts are modeled for a homeowner at 100% of area median income and a renter at 60% of area median income. And of these funding sources, the subsidy is really kind of the linchpin of the financial model. As you probably know, ADUs are usually built with HELOCs or cash, which makes them kind of unattainable to a lot of homeowners. So this kind of subsidy piece not only allows us to build ADUs with homeowners that otherwise might not be able to, but it also allows us to reduce the size of the homeowner loan. And that's what really allows the ADUs to kind of serve renters at lower levels of income than might otherwise be possible. Then this ratio of subsidy to loan is sort of designed to be flexible so that it can really be tailored to match the homeowner's specific debt profile. And Hacienda is really lucky to have some in-house financial consultants that can work with us to make sure that this loan is not going to be any kind of burden or max out any debt capacity for any of our participating homeowners. And then over on the right side, you can see a little more details about the homeowner loan. This loan payment shown is $481 a month. The loan terms are 4% interest paid back in 15 years. And we established these loan terms in conversation with Craft 3. They're a local CDFI that has some off-the-shelf ADU loan products. And in conversations with them, they've sort of told us that they're really willing to provide these flexible ADU loan terms for participants in ADU pilot programs like the Small Homes Northwest program, like the others you're going to hear about. And I think that really speaks to kind of the importance of partnerships that are built into these programs. I know Craft 3 is sort of comfortable with these lending terms in part because of the sort of the homeowner support that's built into these programs through the partnerships that sort of form them. And I think John will talk a little bit more about kind of the importance of financial partnerships and how that's all really important to kind of make these ADU pilot models actually kind of pencil out on paper. And then over kind of on the bottom of the right column, you can see that after operating expenses and utilities and loan servicing, there's a small monthly payment that goes to the homeowner of $166. And this financial model is just on paper right now. Our goal is to really test run it and work out the kinks, incorporate feedback from participants in the pilot, and then ultimately pave the way for this to be replicated, as Kate mentioned, in communities both urban and rural across the state.
Great. With that, I think we'll turn it over to, thanks so much, Ray. And just a reminder to folks, if you have questions about anything that's being presented, drop them in the Q&A and we'll catch them. We've left some nice room for a good back and forth at the end. And with that, John Miller. Thanks, John. I think you might be on mute.
I certainly am. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. It should say Back Home EDU in a big blue field there. Okay, cool. Well, thank you. So as I said earlier, I'm John Miller. Back Home EDU was launched about almost a year and a half ago. And really, as we've heard from others speaking so far, we are really looking at ADUs as a solution for the affordable housing crisis that so many cities around the country are looking at. Right now, we are in the Portland metro area, and for some reason, there we go. So as we know, we've already heard. I don't need to go into this, but ADUs are super popular right now. I think everybody sees them for different reasons. What we've heard from most of the folks we want is either folks want to have additional income or they are looking to create living space for loved ones. And we have really noticed an uptick in that given the pandemic and all the issues that folks had with care homes. And wouldn't it be great if mom lived in the backyard instead of far away where we can't see them for a year? So, that's some of the reasoning we've heard so far. But everybody loves the idea, but it's actually a pretty complex process. These are not simple deals just to drop in. And every jurisdiction has different rules. Right now we're working in 3 different jurisdictions in the Portland metro area, and none of them are the same. So it's pretty complex. ADUs are also quite expensive. In Portland market, typical ADUs are around 200,000 or up, and they go up from there to get them in. Also, it's been tough to find really good financing for folks. So these are some of the barriers that folks have run into when they go to actually make it happen. And at the same time, we recognize that there's a significant lack of affordable homes for rent here in Portland. And as we heard from previous folks, new affordable housing apartments are super expensive, usually about $250,000 for a LIHTC project per unit. And also, it's hard to find affordable land in desirable neighborhoods. So a lot of affordable housing is pushed out from the center of the community. So we, Back Home EDU, we're a nonprofit. I got together with some folks that I've been involved with before, really looked at the whole situation and thought ADUs might be a really great solution. And basically we connect with homeowners and then we connect them with builders, lenders, and a property management company to make this happen. And through our program, our ADUs are restricted to for renters, for occupants that earn less than 80% of the area median income. And right now we've put together funding for 15 to 20 ADUs, depending upon the cost. But I think it's going to be closer to 15 by the time we're done with our initial pilot program. So we knew we needed several elements to make this actually work, and we wanted to make an all-inclusive package. So we needed an affordable product. So we need affordable ADUs. We also need really good financing that is very accessible to folks. We also need to take advantage of as many waived and reduced fees as we possibly can. We also, in Portland in particular, the landlord-tenant laws are pretty complex. And so we recognized the importance of having affordable property management for these units. And lastly, it needs to make sense financially to the homeowner. They need to actually earn some money by doing this. So those are the things that we were going after when we started to put this program together. So right away we realized, we're a very small group. It's like 3 of us that are doing this. And so we need partners to make this happen. And so the first thing we knew is we needed to find a really affordable product. We also needed to find a flexible, experienced lender that we could work with. And we also needed to find a property management company that has experience with scattered site management, which is a little bit different than a big building management. And so the first thing we looked at was trying to find that affordable ADU. And we actually looked at 3 different developers. One is called Wolf Industries. They do a manufactured ADU. They range from 300 to 616 square feet. They're located in Battleground, Washington, which is about 30-minute drive from Portland. We also recognize that not every lot is going to be able to accommodate a manufactured just because of the shape. And so we do have a site-built unit, the Essential House. This is highly energy efficient, comes solar ready, and it's about 386 square feet, 1 bedroom. And then also we've been working with a developer of container housing here in Portland called Relevant Buildings. And those are about the same size as the Wolf Industry units. And they can come in 1 and 2 bedrooms. And so those we haven't done any yet, but we're just starting with that one. Just really quickly, wanted to show you the example pricing. And this is Wolf Industries pricing here. So for their 2-bedroom unit, 616 square feet, all inclusive, is about $126,000. So with our loan program, that ends up $737 a month. And you can see the pricing as it goes down there. And so we, with Wolf especially, realized this we could actually make this happen with the Wolf product. Sorry, I'll keep doing that. All right, the next thing we needed was great financing. And so we partnered with Craft 3, and you've heard about them already a couple times, the Regional Nonprofit Loan Fund, CDFI. And with them, we established a $2 million loan fund. And I wanted to give you a little bit more detail about that loan fund. So Back Home ADU actually had some capital from a recent real estate sale that we did. And so we actually contributed $1 million into the loan fund. And we're actually looking for this pilot phase, we're asking for a 0% return. We want to get the $1 million back, but we're not looking to actually make any money on the interest of the loan. We're also working to recapitalize the effort right now, or the loan fund. And then Craft 3 has also contributed $1 million, and they do all the hard work. So they qualify, underwrite, and approve the buyers. They create the loans, create the security documents, administer all the funds, etc. Really quickly, the features, we do in-house underwriting, which is great. There's a lot of flexibility. Every certain situation is really considered. We will loan up to 120% of loan to value. That's all in, house plus ADU. 3.49% is the rate right now. That could go up or down depending upon availability of funds in the future. We do a 20-year amortization. There's no money down required for this, and loan fees and closing costs of about $1,800. And this subordinates. So the last one that we wanted to look at was professional property management. We did partner with a local property management company here called Living Room Property Management. They do the one thing they do, in addition to all the typical property management things that a company does, they also will do that initial screening to make sure that the tenants earn less than 80% of AMI. And they offered us a discount rate of 8%. And in Portland, the going rate for scattered site management is 10%. So it's a little bit of a reduction for the homeowners. So really quickly, the numbers, this is similar to what Ray showed you just a moment ago, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but all in is about $100,000 for a small Wolf unit. And Back Home ADU does take a $7,500 fee from each one, but the total all-in cost is $100,000. At 3.49% over 20 years, that comes to a monthly loan payment of about $590. So how does that work for the homeowner? So the homeowner in Portland, 80% MFI rent rate is about $1,250. So you take away your taxes, your water, sewer, garbage is going to bump up a little bit. So we accommodate for that, the property management fee and the loan payment. And the cash flow to the homeowner at this rate is $386. Then we also recommend some reserves, vacancy reserve, and also turnover cost. So that's, once you take those out, the homeowner still is cash flowing about $220 a month. So for us, that seemed to check the box that this makes financial sense for a homeowner. Basically, the way we do it is we go out and we conduct a site visit. And if it looks good, we introduce the clients to the builder partner, whichever one is appropriate. The partner then actually does a deeper dive into the site and make sure that what can go there, and also talk about all the pricing and et cetera. And they come up with an all-in price. And then once that all-in price is determined, they come back to us and we calculate the rental income based on that price. And then if they like that, those numbers, then they go and talk to Craft 3. Craft 3 goes through their process. And once they're approved, then the homeowner actually enters into a contract with the builder. And then the builder builds and places the ADU. And our role through the whole process is we act as a liaison, connecting all the dots and all the partners throughout. As the project gets near to the end, we introduce the owner to the property management partner. Usually the whole thing takes about 10 months, although we actually haven't done one of these yet, but that's what we're hoping for. And we do, as I mentioned, we require that the ADU is rented to or is occupied by someone who makes no more than 80% of AMI. And that's for an 8-year term. Also, we don't allow Airbnb or any kind of short-term rentals. And we ensure this by recording a restrictive covenant on the property. So far in progress, we have 4 homeowners that have signed agreements to move forward. We're also working with 8 additional prospects. We've actually done no formal marketing at all. It's all been word of mouth. And some Google searches. And right now we're looking for additional ADU developers that can meet our price point, which is tough, especially with materials right now. But our first groundbreaking is coming up in September. And lessons learned, a few things. From the time you get a prospect to the time they actually become a client is long. It's up to 4 to 5 months is what we've experienced so far. Tons of questions every step of the way, which is awesome. It's a lot of upfront work and then relatively low close rate so far. I've probably spoken with 20, 25 people so far, and we've got 4 so far, but that's, it's a big decision. Also, we do, word of caution, make sure your partners, we're basically all partners. That's how we do the whole thing. So you want to make sure you've got really good partners, because if you have a bad experience, if a prospect has a bad experience, then that can end the process right away. And also partnerships require constant communication. So we have weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins with our partners scheduled on the calendar all the time. The last thing I'll say is that every single deal is different. And it's been quite an adventure so far, learning all the ins and outs, especially working in 3 different jurisdictions right now. So that's, that was my whirlwind presentation. There you go. And you can find it at Home ADU, you bet.
Thanks so much, John. I think Ray is going to take back over the screen share, and we hear from Jennifer Duffy with Hello Housing.
I'm actually going to just share my screen. So
great.
We're okay.
Thank you.
All right. Can you guys see my screen? We're good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Kate. It's really always very exciting to see what's taking place around the country and some really exciting programs that you guys shared with us. Once again, my name is Jennifer Duffy, and I plan to share about an ADU program approach that's supporting homeowners in the California Bay Area add ADUs to their properties. Yep. So for some context, the San Francisco Bay Area of California is one of the least affordable areas in the country to live. We've got a large jobs housing gap. We've been experiencing stagnant wages, and we certainly have very limited buildable land by which to work with. But over the past few years, California has been focusing heavily on accessory dwelling units as a promising and a real strategy to support the pressures of affordable housing in our region. All right. Just a little bit about the opportunity. So, there's a lot of momentum that's taking place across the state. And in early 2017, in an effort to better understand the potential untapped market for ADUs, the Bay Area Council conducted a region-wide poll in the Bay Area and found that of 1.5 million single-family homeowners in the Bay Area, 25% would add an ADU in-law unit, creating 400,000 new and affordable housing units, which is a really significant poll for us to kind of kickstart the momentum that really was taking place right about the same time that a number of state laws started to change. So California started making significant progress in making changes to the state law, trying to remove barriers that have been really significant on the regulatory front. And the most significant of these law changes was signed into effect in January of 2020 this year, which I'll go into a little bit more detail. And then finally, in 2021, California, as it stands, has a $75 billion budget surplus, which is creating the pathway for significant investments into affordable housing, including financing and technical assistance funding for ADU developments, which is an exciting forefront for us to start thinking through as we think about different programs and ways we can support our communities. We believe that the time is now more than ever to seize the momentum by working with our government partners, our affordable housing advocates, as well as the private sector to catalyze ADUs in our way of thinking and our way of building and really re-envisioning our communities as we know them. Just really briefly, just to give you some context, the quick summary of the changes that have taken place in California. It's been at the state level, which has been really profound. We too have had the experience that John was speaking to, where every jurisdiction had a different standard. They were constantly changing their standards. A lot of really restrictive practices were in place. And so the state took over and made sweeping changes, which include some of the following. So there's no replacement parking if you convert a garage. In fact, if you are building an ADU within half a mile of transit, you don't have to comply with the parking requirements per your zoning area. The state standardized setbacks, so that setbacks for side and rear yards is 4 feet. There is no setbacks required if you're converting an existing structure. They removed minimum lot size restrictions. There are no impact fees if you're building less than 750 square feet. They streamlined the review and the approval process, so there is a 60-day turnaround time on your permit submittal. Homeowner associations, which we have a number of throughout different communities in California, can no longer ban ADUs or JADUs. And 1 detached ADU and 1 junior ADU are now allowed by right on a single family home. So it's been really systematic in changing the way that jurisdictions are having to push themselves and their ADU ordinances in order to meet the state goals. I want to turn to San Mateo County's ADU strategy. So San Mateo County, a really large county in the Bay Area, was an early adopter of ADUs. There are 21 cities and towns that make up San Mateo County, each with a diverse set of housing challenges and solutions that have driven their policy over the years. And following a large inclusive engagement process with their communities around ADUs, the county learned that there was significant interest by homeowners, but there was also a great deal of concern and anxiety about how to proceed with this type of investment strategy. And knowing that it's an incredibly complicated process was causing a lot of homeowners to stay on the sidelines. So in response to this outreach, as well as the laws that started to take effect in 2017 through 2020, San Mateo County started their investment by building out a second unit resources center. And this is an online platform that can help homeowners learn more about the process in a comprehensive way. So there are inspirational guides that are on this site that highlight how different homeowners across the Bay Area are creating new ways to utilize their garages, their basements, their extra rooms, and their backyards. They also crafted a how-to workbook that really helps guide homeowners through every phase of the development process. And then they designed a cost benefit calculator, which is a plug and play tool that's online that allows a homeowner to go to the site and plug in what type of ADU by square foot or by type into this calculator. It spits out costs based on costs that are specific for jurisdictions, as well as site conditions. And then it also calculates market rents at different levels of affordability. And the thing that's been great about this tool is it really helps homeowners get a bit grounded before they try and take on a project to understand a little bit of the landscape around costs. And while these tools were very helpful for homeowners, there were still many areas where these tools were falling short in supporting homeowners to take the next step. So in 2020, San Mateo County hired Hello Housing to launch Brighten Your Own Backyard, which is a one-stop shop. Brighten Your Backyard works directly with homeowners to help them navigate the process of adding an ADU or a junior ADU to their homes. And we do this by providing individualized project management support through every phase of the development process. So we break down the process into 5 general phases. It starts with initial feasibility, where we're helping homeowners understand what's possible on their sites, helping them articulate their vision, how this vision is supported or in many cases not supported by existing conditions on their site. We explore their budgets and we discuss high-level costs and cost drivers, as well as the overall development process during this phase. Under the design and third-party selection, we are working to help homeowners understand the pros and cons of the various design strategies, which there are many. And we refer homeowners to different design professionals capable and experienced in addressing the needs of their particular project. We review proposals that come in with these professionals, with the homeowner, helping them understand, what these proposals can achieve. And we also make sure we're reviewing contracts before homeowners enter into binding agreements. By the time we are done with this phase, we help to review all of the plans before they're ready for permit submittal. And then as part of the permitting process, we review and ensure all permit applications and submittals are complete and meet the jurisdiction requirements, which is a win-win for both sides. It helps homeowners feel like they have the support so they don't get stuck in the permitting process. But the cleaner the submission is, the more it also helps our government partners meet that goal of reviewing projects within that 60-day window. Then we also support construction administration. So we work with the homeowner to identify different general contractors. We manage the bidding process. We ensure that those bids are complete so that we don't have expensive change orders down the road. We're looking at pay applications throughout the process, and we're really just working in partnership with the homeowner, manage the professional team. And then finally, in lease up, we are working with a number of community partners. As John mentioned, partnership is critical in every endeavor that we take. And so we've got different community partners who provide landlord training, because we're creating a lot of first-time landlords in this endeavor, as well as tenant matchmaking services. Couple of basics. When you think about our program, we are sponsored to offer roughly 100 hours of free feasibility and project management support. Homeowners who engage in our program must be willing to rent the new unit. So we're all about creating more housing, not man caves, not working stations, but housing. So all units, when construction is completed, must be evidenced by a lease in place. We have a rent cap at 100% of the area median income for the geographical area of San Mateo County. And this is for a 3-year compliance period. We also felt that it was important that homeowners were able to control the tenant selection process. So tenants can be family members, friends, or a community member, as long as there's a bona fide lease in place. And then finally, we working with homeowners who have a plan in place to design and build the unit. So while we're offering free services and support all the way through the process, we're not at this particular stage offering financing tools. So it's an important piece that they are ready to go with a plan in place. We'll help them with that plan. We'll help them identify financing, but it's important that they've come to the table with some thoughts around that. The goals of this particular pilot were really to produce more naturally affordable housing in high opportunity neighborhoods. So it was really about housing production. We also wanted a proof of concept to explore whether or not support services is a leverage to help private investment from homeowners take place. We also wanted to establish a learning lab, which, that would help with the communication with our permitting departments. So being able to have a point of contact at the permitting department where we can share lessons and experiences that homeowners are having as it relates to the permitting experience. And then finally, we were really hopeful to establish, a program where we could start to work on layering future public benefit options that mitigate displacement pressures, deepen affordability for various populations, and create asset building strategies for a broader base of low to moderate income homeowners. This San Mateo County pilot is currently supporting 18 and growing homeowners. For a $500,000 investment, we're creating 18 new units of housing. Our homeowners are all in various stages of the process. We've got some that have completed construction successfully. We've got many that are in the permitting process, and we have some that are still in the designing phase of the program. We found that homeowners in the pilot are building a variety of different types of ADUs. So we have found that a one size fits all strategy has not necessarily been what's been playing out in the space and in our communities. We have homeowners that are building detached site-built single-story and two-story units, some that are doing basement conversions, others that are working with prefab modular companies doing detached units, as well as units attached to the main home. So it's just about every type of ADU you can envision is being built throughout our pilot, which is giving us a great landscape and learning opportunity. We also found that there's a number of reasons that our homeowners are building ADUs. So in the pilot, 53% of our pilot participants are building for multi-generational living opportunities. We've got about 24% who are doing aging in place strategies, and about 23% who are seeking additional income producing opportunities to help with the high cost of living in the Bay Area. We also took data on all of the different applicant responders that we received during our initial application period to find out what were the biggest areas of support that homeowners were seeking. And we found that of the responders, 39% were seeking help finding the right professionals. So that's definitely been a big need that we've experienced. 30% were not sure where to start, what options to consider. There's a lot of players in the ADU space right now in California, and so it can get complicated really quickly. 23% were seeking financial considerations. What does it cost? What are different costs per phase? And what should they be thinking as far as different tools out there? And then finally, 8% were fearful of the permitting process, getting stuck and experiencing a lot of anxiety around that. So it's impossible to talk about ADUs without talking a little bit about ADU financing. So I thought I would share really briefly what's out there and what's showing some promise in California. We have, when we launched our pilot program in San Mateo County, we started to quickly look for a financing partner that could help bridge the gap. And we started working with San Mateo Credit Union and helped them design an ADU construction loan. And what's been unique about this particular loan is that it is assessing the future value of the property once the ADU is completed, as well as contemplating future rents. And what this does is allow the homeowners to be underwritten with those two levers in mind. This has opened the door for opportunities for households who are house rich but cash poor, or for new homeowners who have entered into the housing market but do not yet have the equity but have the income to be able to access. It's also been helping us be able to direct other portfolio lenders and credit unions to this model and to really start those conversations. So it's been quite exciting. Additionally, state funding. So the state issued Cal Home funding, and for the first time ever, they included an ADU construction loan. So this is a construction loan that is a deferred interest payment loan targeting about 80% of area median income homeowners, and is operating in a variety of different jurisdictions across the state. We expect a second and a third round of this funding to come through in the years to come. And then also we are seeing that there's a new Assembly Bill 561, which is helping to support the California Housing Finance Agency explore tools like loan guarantees to help induce more lenders to enter into the lending market for ADUs. And then finally, there are a number of pilot programs that have been operating or starting to operate throughout California. And they're using some different funding sources, which include local affordable housing bond funds, tax increment or boomerang funds, local sales tax measures, as well as inclusionary housing funds. So we're seeing some of the traditional funding tools that are available to our public partners starting to make their way into creating the opportunity for ADUs. So finally, I just wanted to share in closing, just for everyone out there who is thinking about designing a program in partnership, perhaps with your local jurisdiction, some of the lessons that we learned, that we also learned in speaking with other groups throughout California that were working on their pilots. And some things to consider from our perspective. We believe it's important to start with as large of an applicant pool as possible when you're rolling out a new pilot. There are many reasons an applicant homeowner may not be able to move forward. Everything from unbridged financial gaps to challenging site conditions to significant deferred maintenance on the main home life. There's all types of reasons, and your marketing outreach campaign should result in an applicant pool that's at least 5 to 10 times larger than the number of properties you expect to support. We also would suggest minimizing the complexity where possible. The more restrictions, the more complicated and resource intensive the application selection process can be. So for example, an ADU loan program for an income qualified borrowers must vet several criteria at the same time. So assessing feasibility of the property you want to add an ADU to, screening program eligibility and income eligibility, and underwriting the loan application all at the same time. Then if you attach rental occupancy restrictions to the completed unit, it's a whole nother layer. So for a brand new pilot program, we consider narrowing your program goals. And in a way to be able to test proof of concept and also to be able to pivot as you start to roll out your program design. We also think it's important to properly size the amount of assistance low-income homeowners need, so not to lowball. There is a significant financing gap that prevents most low-income homeowners from being able to afford a comprehensive cost of building an ADU, especially in high-cost areas. So an incentive program intended to increase ADU access for income-qualified homeowners should offer assistance that has a high enough cap and is flexible underwriting criteria to actually close versus just narrow the financing gap. And then finally, pairing financing and technical assistance with property management to ensure success. We want to make sure that the ADU actually gets built. And so as jurisdictions look at their limited resources, pairing those resources with a neutral third-party support really is essential in making sure that projects continue to move and that investment results in an actual ADU being built. So we believe that it's a perfect marriage. And with that, I will close it out so that we can jump into some Q&A. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Jennifer, if you cancel your screen share, thank you so much. We have a few minutes left for Q&A. So I'm just going to jump right into questions that folks typed in. And any of you panelists can just jump in and answer these. So first question, how are ownership of the ADU separated from the main house? For each of these programs, correct me if I'm wrong, the owner of the original home owns the whole situation, that these are rental housing options. Anything else to say about that, folks?
No, I think that's right. I know one thing, they are looking at unique ways to be able to actually sell an ADU without having to do a property division in Oregon right now. So that's something that is under consideration. But yeah, you're right, Kate. These are all owner owned. The homeowner owns the ADU. That's correct.
Yep. Good. Next question: are folks seeing any loan defaults? As a second position lien on the original home, how can you recover the loan amount and fees? I know we also have Desiree Sideroff with Craft 3 on the line. Do any folks on the panel have experience yet with programs aged enough to deal with loan defaults.
We haven't had any, we're not far enough along, but I know Desiree is in the next session. So that actually might be a
That's
good,
true. That's, yeah,
good question to kick to the next session. Yeah.
good. And for Jennifer,
Sure.
the question or the questioner asked, missed how you are able to offer 100 pro bono hours of project support.
Sure. So that is the sponsorship we received from San Mateo County. So they are paying for our time and our services as part of a way to partner with homeowners to move their projects forward.
Great. And just another question for you, Jennifer, as follow-up. Curious about the average project cost and the take-home rental income for homeowners.
Sure. So yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So there's a pretty broad range of costs associated in the Bay Area for building an ADU. We are seeing an average about $300 to $450 a square foot. It can continue to grow well beyond that, depending on different site conditions, different features, and what you're actually trying to build. Second part of that question was
Income.
Charge rents, yes.
Yep. Yeah.
So one of the reasons that we chose to cap at 100% of area median income, which is published every year by our county, was to really make sure that there was still the ability for the homeowner to service their debt if they were seeking traditional financing strategies. And so we looked at what the average rents were, fair market, in housing units similar to ADUs, and found that 100% AMI prevented any future rent gouging from participation in the program, but also was just the right amount for homeowners to be able to service their debt. We're looking anywhere from $1,800 a month all the way to $2,800 a month, just depending on the city that you're operating in and where the 100% AMI sits in that city.
Great. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Folks, we're down to 2 minutes left in our session here. Couple of housekeeping announcements, but I want to give a minute to anyone on the panel who has anything further they want to throw in. And if there's nothing, just want to appreciate all of the good information everyone had, and let attendees know that you have a 10-minute break to the next session. And then there will be concurrent sessions. Those are the Viable Backyard, Lending and Appraisal, and Innovative Development and Design. Both of those start at 3:40. So thanks again, panelists. Thanks again for attendees, and go build those ADUs affordably.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm off to my next session, but thank you so much. Appreciate you. And go grab lunch if you haven't.
Yeah.